Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I'm here today to answer your questions about Delphi, Richard Allen, and serial killers. I wasn't planning to do another video on this case until 2023 when more information came out about Richard Allen and his case, or if there was some kind of breaking news. But I've had so many questions on my last video, my commentary post the press conference, that I tried to answer them, and then I couldn't get through all of the thousands, and then there were so many repeat questions. I thought I'm going to just condense this to the best questions, and I'll answer them here. Please do, if you have, please do watch the whole video, and if I haven't answered your question, then ask your question in the comments below. I will try to answer them then. But please don't get halfway through the video and ask the questions I haven't even gotten to yet, because it gets out of hand. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. Please, but if you haven't been to the channel, please do subscribe, like, share in your true crime communities, and hit the notification buttons for anything that's coming up. If you're interested in any particular case, check my playlist. And also, there's a search engine in YouTube, and you just put in Profiler Pat Brown and the victim's name or the killer's name, whatever, and you'll come up with something, if I've done it, that's already there. So, you can check all my playlists and go through, like this, or you can just put that in there. It's a quick way to do it and see if I've already talked about the case you're interested in. If you're interested in a particular case I haven't discussed, then put it in the comments below. Okay, that's that. I'm going to get straight to the questions. All right. First one. Are they pulling a rabbit out of the hat and claiming he is the killer? No. Because a lot of people think they're stitching this guy up. It's been 5.5 years, almost 6 years, and they haven't nailed the killer. We'll just go with this guy. No, they've got better people to stitch up. They've got Keegan Kline. Nobody likes Keegan Kline. He's already been arrested. He's a creepo. He was catfishing the girls. Hey, Keegan Kline. Or how about Ron Logan? Man, he's dead. He can't object. Go with Keegan. Go with Ron Logan. They were on his property. He lied about a couple things. He's a little squirrely. Hey, he's 80. But hey, blame it on Keegan. Blame it on Ron Logan. I keep saying Keegan Kline. Just stuck in my head. Anyway, this is an unedited video. I can't edit to save my life. So what you see is just what you get in front of you. So it's not all fancy. Anyway, they're not going to say this guy did it when they got better guys to stitch up, better patsies. So they had to have something on him to make the public believe that a family guy works at CVS. He's a pharmacy tech. He has a wife. He has a daughter. He has no criminal record. They're not going to stitch this guy up for no reason. They have to have something on him. All right, next question. Was law enforcement on to Allen for years, or were they looking down the wrong path? Okay, let me stop here and just say, I have claimed that if Allen is guilty, he's a serial killer. If he's guilty. Now, serial killers are very difficult to catch. Serial homicides are difficult to investigate. Why is that? Most crimes that occur are people that are linked. They're linked together. So it's like, he killed his girlfriend. It's a drug deal gone bad. It's a gang hit. It's a robbery. We see it on the video. The guy went into the store, pointed a gun at the attendant, whoever was working there, and the guy said no, and he shot him anyway. Okay, we got his face. Easy to identify who the killer is a lot of times. Hard to necessarily go to court, get all the evidence to prove it. That's the tougher part, but still they know who did it. Serial homicides, usually serial killers pick victims that are not connected. Now they may be aware of them, but they're not necessarily connected. So therefore, it's a almost stranger homicide, if not totally stranger homicide. And so it's a needle in a haystack. And the investigators are going, I got no idea who this is. We got now Delphi is a kind of small place, so you can start going down to only hundreds of people that could have done it, but still, who did it? We don't know. And we got squirrely guys everywhere. I mean, let's say he didn't do it, but then we got the Kleins who are squirrely. We got Ron Logan who's squirrely. I guarantee you there's like 10 other squirrely guys in town, if not 20 or 30. So that's the problem. Creepy dudes everywhere. And so it's hard for the investigators to say, oh, this is the guy. Very difficult. And also it's just the hardest investigation ever, which is why you have serial killers who are caught 30 years after the fact. And then they go back and say, oh, they've been killing since whatever decade. All right, let me go here. Were they incompetent? I don't like the word incompetent. A lot of people are not as well trained in a specific area that they could be trained in. And if you're in a smaller jurisdiction, let me tell you, you're lucky that you get any training at all. People don't like to hear this, but I know it personally because I'm not going to go there. All right, so unedited. I'm not going to be, I can't edit what I say out. Anyway, I have enough experience to know that many detectives become detectives because they just move up from the street. They're great cops on the street. Wonderful. And then they move up. How do they move up? People like them. They drink at the same bar. I don't know. They move up, especially in a small area where there's not too many people to move up. Money for training is like zero. And that's the fault of the public. Okay. Zero money for training. So therefore, most people who become detectives don't get training. And people don't understand that. They get zero training. They don't go to like 6 months of training and how to analyze crime. No, they just move up and they learn on the job. And if you're in a big city where you got lots of crime and you've got great mentors, you might do well. Some other areas, well, you're kind of on your own. I do not blame the detectives. They do their best. And then there's another problem. Some detectives are super logical, my kind of profiler, and detectives are profilers in their own right. Then you got the guys who are so not logical. You're like, I've come into cases where I'm like, you say what? Oh, okay. Nice guy. Not good at logic. So it's kind of like a crapshoot. So, you roll the dice and you get a great detective. You get not so great a detective. You get a great team, not so great a team. I mean, it's just the way life works. Profilers are no different. You get a great profiler, not so great a profiler. I'm not going to comment. All right. So let's go further. I just want to understand that I have a heart for detectives, and I think they do their best. And I think they're undertrained, and I think that's unfortunate for them. I think that's unfair. I think that everybody who moves up into detective work should go to 6 months worth of training on how to be a detective, on crime scene analysis, profiling. I think they should all get this, but there's no money for it. So they don't get it. They just move up. And then once in a while, sometimes they spend their own money to go to these seminars, 3 days. I learned something. Thank God. Not their fault. I love detectives, and I think they're the ones who are the true profilers, and they need more support. Okay, that's my comment on that. All right, so let's go further. Okay, could they have made a mistake? And it's not Alan. No. Alan is involved in some way. I do not believe they would take the chance on ratting him out as a suspect to charging him with 2 murders. But this guy was not connected. No. They have had so much pressure, so much media against them, and I mean against them, that I don't think they would take a risk on that. Alan is involved in some way that they have solid evidence to convict him of something. And they said 2 murders, and I'll get to what that means in a little bit. All right, so let's see what the next question is. Okay. Why is law enforcement not releasing more info? Because it's none of your damn business. Sorry. I know that you like to learn things. I know that you want to know everything. You know, why we're like citizens of this country. Why can't we learn everything? Because of none of your damn business. I'm sorry. It's just none of your business. In a sense that the most important thing is this case goes to court, that the prosecution is successful. These two girls are important. Their families are important. You, quite frankly, even the people listening to me, are not that important. I'm not that important. This guy, if he's guilty, is important. These girls are important. Sorry, I don't have a lot of sympathy for that. Yeah, you might want to know because we're all curious. I'm curious. You're curious. But it's not our right to know what they've got because they have to protect the investigation. So get over it. All right, let's see. Now the question, here's another interesting question though. Is it because they've screwed up? Or is it really that they got the right guy? Okay. Now, that's not an unreasonable question. They could have been going down the wrong path for 5 years, and this guy just popped up, and they're like, ah, crap. It is that guy. That's embarrassing, but it's not necessarily their fault. Because again, as I say, serial homicides are difficult to investigate. They're difficult to prove. It's difficult to come up with the right guy. So don't blame the detectives if for 5 years they were looking at the Keegans and Logan and other creepy dudes and had no clue this guy was there. But it is embarrassing. I mean, it's like, oh man, now we got evidence on this guy. And I have a heart for what they're dealing with. But is it possible that they had no clue this guy existed? Yes, absolutely. Oh, all right. So let's go further. How would Alan get through an interview with the police and not raise suspicions? This happens all the time. So many serial homicides. When the investigators, the detectives have interviewed so many people, it is actually true that the majority of time they've interviewed the killer in the I think it's like in the first week or something. It's crazy. Really early on, they've interviewed the guy and let him walk and let him go away, had no suspicions. And why is this? Well, it's because even detectives are looking for a guy with a hump on his back. Yeah, really weird. Yeah, I like killing girls. Not true. Most of the time, it's a guy who plays pool, watches football. And they're like, they talk to the guy and they're like, hey, I'd have him over for a barbecue. And they don't see it in him because he seems normal. Now, mind you, I will say this. Serial killers are psychopaths and they're not normal most of the time, but they can get through an interview. They've learned the methodologies. And so I do not blame the detectives for interviewing a guy and saying, I had no clue. Maybe not. All right. Let's see. Is he the guy in the sketches? And why are there two different looking guys in the sketches? And why does Doug Carter think he is a combo of both? This is kind of funny because there were these, you got this, which is the video, which is, I think, the absolute great piece of information because this is real. The sketches, if you have the two different sketches. Okay. When the police ask, did you see somebody? First of all, we don't know if they saw the right guy. Secondly, we don't know if they can describe the right guy properly. Now, I say this because I personally suffer from what is a kind of a version of face blindness. I can't identify anybody to save my life. I have put up pictures of people and had my subscribers and my viewers go, that wasn't the same person. I'm like, really? That wasn't them? I can't tell them apart. I'm the worst witness ever. I'm a horrible witness. And I'm a profiler. I can analyze crime, but I suck as a witness. I don't know why I can't seem to understand faces. I can't. So you don't know who that person is who described somebody they saw. They may have been describing somebody else that has nothing to do with Delphi. Just some guy who's walking along. It may have been correct, but not the guy. They may have seen a guy that was Richard Allen, but described him poorly. They could have described somebody. I do not like composites where somebody describes and somebody does this, and then you're like, oh, it looks like half the time it's wrong. So, and so then Doug says, Doug Carter said, oh, okay, so you put them together and look like him. Like, okay, you're just stretching it, I mean, Doug Carter is trying to support his stuff. So do I think that's accurate? No, I don't think it even matters. I think what matters is real evidence. All right, let's go on. Did Richard Allen confess? No, as far as I know, he did not. He did not confess, and that's not how they got him. So let's say, what ways could DNA have caught Allen? Now, this is a very good question because supposedly, and again, I don't have absolutely good information on this because a lot of it is gossip stuff. I've heard there was DNA at the scene. So if there was DNA, the problem is he's never been in the CODIS, which is the bank there put together of all the people who've committed felonies, and they're in the CODIS bank. And that's wonderful because then you can put in some DNA from a crime and see if it matches anybody in the bank. He didn't come up. He's got no record. So how could DNA have linked him? Well, okay, I'm going to try to think of 3 ways. One is familial DNA, that he could have had a relative who screwed up and ended up committed a felony and ended up in that bank. And therefore that DNA was familial. And they're like, oh, this has got to be somebody related to the guy who committed the crime. And then they narrowed it down. The second part is that there's a genealogy thing these days where people put their DNA into genealogy and then it all matches, at least in a certain area of group of people. Could have happened. The third possibility is they had some information on him and they hung out until he drank something from the cup and then he was too lazy to throw it in a trash can, so he just left it on a table. Happened in a recent crime that I've analyzed, and that was exactly how they caught the guy 30 years later. So, the guy doesn't know how to throw his crap out in a trash can, like you slob, And so they're like, hey, so that's that cup sitting on a table outside of an eating establishment is free game. It's not something you can't grab, so you grab it. Also, you can grab trash on a curb. So one of the things you can do is you can stake out a person's place and wait till they put trash out on the curb, and then it's public domain. So you grab that trash bag and you go through it and then you test all the DNA and see if it matches. That's another way. So they may have gotten him through DNA. If they got him through DNA, it's really good. All right. Let's see. Did he confess? Probably not. Did he tell them something only the killer and the police would know? Well, this is interesting. Usually that happens when somebody confesses. The reason the police keep something secret is that if somebody confesses and knows that secret, then there must be the guy. That's the reason they keep things secret. I do not know that this happened in this case. I don't believe he confessed to anything. All right. Why didn't they release the whole video? A lot of people wonder because only a piece was released. Well, maybe because it wasn't useful. Maybe he said, go down the hill. And then for the next part of the video, the girls are going down the hill. There's no point in releasing it. Maybe the guy did say something or do something that they thought was useful to keep secret in case somebody confessed. Or maybe it's just something horrific that the girls are screaming or crying and they just didn't want to release that to the public because it would upset the family. I mean, we have to understand the family is there. It's, just because we are little selfish selves want to know what happened, we're not the family of these 2 girls. If it were my daughter or granddaughter who was murdered, I really could give a crap about what you people think out there, outside of catching the guy that did it, if this is the guy. All right, so yeah, if it's horrifying to the family and serves no purpose, they have no reason to release it. All right, recently, the judge recused himself out of fear for his family because of the crazies on the internet threatening him over the lack of release of info. Actually, this is why he did it. People say, why did he do it? That's why. Because too many people in the internet are attacking the judge and threatening him and his family because they say, oh, we think he's got a partner. We think something else is true here. We want to know the truth. We want to know all the details. Well, screw you. You don't have the right to know. This is a police investigation. You are not even living in Delphi. You live in Alaska. You live in Tennessee. I live in Maryland. It's none of my damn business, quite frankly. So while I understand some people's wanting to their hearts are into solving this crime. It is not your business to interfere with the crime and how it's handled to go forth to the prosecution. And threatening a judge is despicable. And I know some of the channels that do that. It really bothers me. All right. I'm going to go on to the next part, which is the basic crime. Why did the girls go down the hill? Did he have a weapon? My answer to that is yes. I can't imagine these two girls, just because some guys go down the hill. They're like, say what? Say what? No, he had to have something to threaten them with. A gun or a big knife. Something to scare them into cooperating. Otherwise, they're not going to cooperate. They're not 5 years old and have no clue. They're like, at that point, they would know something's wrong here. And unless they had some guy threatening them with a weapon, they're not going to go down the hill. They're not dumb. Next question. Was this a robbery gone bad? No. What the heck would two young girls have to rob? No. Did they see something they shouldn't have? No. The guy was just walking along. He wasn't like conducting a drug deal with, some huge Mexican cartel. And two little girls, really, quite frankly, aren't going to remember much anyway. Yeah, no. Were the girls raped and then murdered? This information has never been made public. Do I believe there was a sexual component to this crime? The answer to that is yes. I believe that this was a sexual homicide or sexual homicides. Now, what a serial killer does is when he hones in on a victim or victims, he wants to enjoy himself with them. Sex often comes as part of that enjoyment, also part of that humiliation, part of that power and control thing. Now, he may have only wanted one of them, and the other one was collateral damage. And he used that person to get to that girl, to get the other girl. So, yes, I believe that it was a sexual homicide or homicides. Mind you, a sexual assault does not have to be rape. It can be other things. So understand that. All right. What does it mean that the bodies were staged, or were they posed? Well, I don't know. This was some information that was let out by, I don't know why it was even let out. Were the bodies staged or were the bodies posed? These are two different things. Okay, staging is when you want to confuse law enforcement and send them off in a direction that's not true. Like, for example, a husband will kill his wife and then go, I'll make it look like a rape and a serial killer so that nobody looks at me. That's staging. Posing is more like a Danny Rolling thing, where Danny Rolling, when he killed his victims, like, oh, not only did I rape and kill them, but I really think it'd be cool if I cut off her head and put it on a bookcase. And when the police come in, they're like, and then they're going to take pictures and cool crime scene photos that last forever. That's staging. Do I know that the girls were posed or staged? Staged or posed? I'm not sure what I just said. Danny Rolling posed them. He didn't stage them. Non-edited. Okay, so I don't know if the girls were staged or posed. I do not know, because this is somebody's opinion. And I don't know what they saw. I haven't seen the crime scene photos. I don't know what's true and what isn't true. I do not believe the guy staged, because what's the point? What is he going to stage them as? I mean, two girls get murdered in in a park. It's usually a sexual homicide. What's he going to stage them as? I don't get a drug deal gone wrong. Did he throw cocaine on them? I mean, it makes no sense. Posing makes more sense, that he thought it was amusing, that he put them in positions that he thought were really cool. But do we know that he posed them? I don't know. I've seen crimes that claim posing when it's really just the way the bodies fell. I do not know. However, if posing was involved, that's more likely than a serial killer is the only one who would do that, because it amuses him, and it's just kind of his sick kind of thinking. All right, let's see. Does staging show remorse, or that he knew the girls? And I think they're meaning posing too. No, there's no remorse. The serial killer doesn't have remorse. He could care less about the girls. That's why they killed them. I wouldn't have raped and killed the girls if I cared about them. No, so staging or posing has nothing to do with anything as far as remorse goes. There is no remorse. All right. Did he take a souvenir? I don't know. They say that he did. And this may be what caught Richard Allen, if he actually did take souvenirs and he is the guy and he put them in his house. Sometimes serial killers do take souvenirs because they like to go back. It's like a photo, if they don't have a photo, they can have underwear, they can have something else cool, and they can go and look at that and, people when they travel buy souvenirs all the time so they can put them on their, on their mantle and say, look, I went to the Grand Canyon. But this guy, he went to the bridge, that's exciting for him. Oh, let me stop here just one more time to say, I never even said it. I do not know if he is guilty of the murders of these two girls. He has only been arrested and charged. He is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Okay. All right. So, but if he is guilty and he took a souvenir, that might have been what got him caught. Because souvenirs are something you keep close to you and you can keep looking at, and it keeps bringing back the exciting event over and over and over again. And that's why we do it when we travel. I have a lot of souvenirs from my travels around the world. And if my hobby is killing, that's going to be my souvenir. Now, do most serial killers keep souvenirs? The answer to that is actually no. Most serial killers do not. They just commit the crime and walk away. So it's overstated that they actually keep souvenirs. Why didn't he get rid of the phones? Oh, that's a good question, because this video is huge. If he committed the crime, why wouldn't he get rid of the phone? Well, two possibilities. One is he didn't know if she actually videoed him, which he may not have got a clue. And therefore, when he killed them, he didn't bother with their phones, because what's the point? The other thing is that the concept is, when you video, that it goes up to the cloud. If you're on like an iPhone, it goes up to the cloud. But if you're not in an area that has any reception, it's not going to go to the cloud till later. Maybe he's just not very smart. Maybe he just didn't know they had phones. I do not know, but it was stupid. Definitely stupid. He should have, if he was able to get those phones and it hadn't uploaded to any place, he should have crushed those phones really quick. Did Allen become a searcher to return to the scene of the crime like serial killers so often do? Okay, first of all, serial killers do not often go back to the crime because they're not idiots. They go, and they're not even interested. They're like, I did it, I'm done, I had fun, I'm moving on to the next victim. But on occasion they do. The reason could be a couple of reasons. One is that he wants to see the crime scene again. I got three reasons. One is he wants to see the crime scene again because it like titillates him. Second, he thinks he left something there and maybe he should pick it up. Third, he just wants to look like an innocent guy. I'm helping out, I was seen there, so I better show up and pretend I was, I'm willing to help out. But most of the time they do not return to the scene, but he may have done so. Is the state charging him with murder because he is an accessory? and not actually the killer. This is a big issue because of the clients. Did he work alone or did he work with someone? Now, I just want to point this out. Let me show you a couple of issues about serial killer duos, serial killer couples. Now, there are serial killer duos, like, for example, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris. They're two horrible guys. They met in prison, and when they got out, they're like, hey, cool, let's go kill some kids. Let's go kill some teenage girls. And so they did that, and they had a toolbox, and they tortured the girls, and they got hitchhiking girls, and they put them in their van, and they tortured them and recorded them. It was horrifying. Yeah, that's a duo. Here's another duo, Bianchi and Bono. They abducted approximately 10 women and girls around Los Angeles. They were, I think they were cousins. I'm correct. They were cousins. A lot of times when you have duos, you have the stronger person and the weaker person. The stronger person conducts the concept, and the other one just goes along with it because, it's like, hey, let's do this. So you have a big person and a little person. And usually they're like vagabonds. They're drifters. There's somebody who doesn't have a good connection to the community. Like they have a van and some tools, and they like just to run around. And a lot of times it's almost a spree. They go from one to another because they're having so much fun. That's it. Usually the serial killer duo. Then you have serial killer. Let's see who this is. Serial killer couples. We have Hindley and Brady, which is they're the ones of the Moore murders. They abducted young children. They were a horrifying couple. And people ask this because they wonder whether Alan's wife helped out. Usually when you have a duo couple, they're really, really screwed up people that don't really participate well in the community, and that will be Hindley's. You also have, wait a minute, did I miss somebody here? This is Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. They're a married couple in Canada, and they abducted teenage girls because, and they had fun with them. But again, not necessarily stable members of the community. I've never seen a husband and wife couple as a stable member of the community involving themselves in this. They usually completely screw ups. Now, could he have had a second person like one of the Kleins, like Keegan Klein? All right. Here's the problem I have with that. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. It's possible that somehow he hooked up with the Kleins and got into the catfishing thing. I have problems with this. Here's one question somebody asked. Could someone have been waiting down the hill to where Bridge Guy took them? So in other words, he said, down the hill, girls, and there was somebody already there. That's some of the theory. I cannot see fat old Keegan Klein, incel that he is, hanging out there and like, oh, good, you brought the girls to me. I'm like, this is not an incel guy's bitch. You know what I mean? I can't fathom that. Maybe, so some people say maybe it was both Kleins. So 3 of them attacked the girls. Could it have happened? I can't say it couldn't have, but usually a guy like this works alone. Almost all serial killers work alone, and especially serial killers that have families and are part of the community, they usually work alone. Why is that? Because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to hook up with some loser who's going to rat them out, who's going to screw up. They don't want to take that chance. They do it by themselves. So I have a hard time believing he was hooked up with the Kleins. Now, could he have somehow gotten a hold of information about the girls going to the bridge that day? Maybe through their own daughter, maybe he was lurking around on that, that catfishing thing. Maybe got wind of it and went and did that. But I have a hard time believing he's involved with the Kleins as a group, or even Keegan Klein as like a duo. It's not something that's normal that happens within serial killer history. Is it an anomaly? I don't know. As a profiler, one thing I will say to you is that anomalies happen. And once in a great while, you go, well, I'll be damned. Never saw that coming. The biggest case of that happening in my mind is the case of Williams up in Canada. What's his name? I'm blanking here. The Colonel up in Canada. He was a. I hope I got his name. I'm gonna look it up because now I feel like I'm stupid here. Hold on 1 second. I mean Russell Williams, I think it is. Russell Williams. He was a serial killer in Canada, and he was with the Air Force, and he had an illustrious career, and he was even he had a picture next to Queen Elizabeth. I mean, unbelievable. So he was a serial killer, and I mean, I'm putting him in here. Colonel Russell Williams. Okay, I'm right. Okay, he was married. He didn't have kids, but he was a colonel. And when they caught him, they were like, "You got to be kidding me, Colonel Williams, this decorated guy." I mean, blow you away. I'm going to do a show on him one day, but he is an anomaly. I don't know that this guy's an anomaly. He doesn't look like the anomaly type. That's just my opinion on that. But there are anomalies. So once in a while, you'll be surprised. All right. So I don't personally think he looks like somebody to be part of a team, but I could be wrong. Now, why do you call him a serial killer? Well, because guys who in the mid-40s who suddenly decide to kill these two girls, which I believe is a sexual homicide, don't just wake up one day and go, I'm tired of playing pool. I think I'd like to kill girls instead. No. There's a history. Usually starts in the 20s and 30s. It's like some kind of history. I can't believe that he would be just waking up one day. This one makes me laugh. Remember when they say, Doug Carter says, "Oh, he's hiding in plain sight." Where was he hiding? In a cave? I mean, serial killers don't live in caves. They live in the community. They always live in the community. That they work, they date, they get married. They usually live in the community, unless they're like traveling around, like they're vagabond type guys. Unless they're vagabonds, they live in the community. They're the guy who lives next door to you. They're your husband, your son. It's creepy, but true. All right. So yeah, hiding in plain sight, of course, because most of them do. Next question. Why didn't the wife recognize him? Denial is not just a river in Egypt. That is the number one reason. You married this guy, right? You married him. You sleep with him every night. You have sex with him. You have barbecues with him. You raise your children. They've got a daughter. They're growing up together. He's your daughter's daddy. Why would you think he's a serial killer? Well, I'm going to tell you why. First of all, denial, because you cannot possibly believe you could be that guy. Even if he's got the coat, which some people saw in that video, he's wearing the same coat. Well, okay, it's probably bought in Walmart. Probably half the town bought the same coat. But okay. And he's got this look. He looks like the guy. Well, half the town again looks like the guy. And he walks, maybe, wouldn't she know he walks like the guy? I don't know. But she's his wife. And she cannot believe the guy she's sleeping with and kissing is a serial killer. It's just, you can't fathom that. Also, here's the point a lot of people miss. Anybody, if he is a serial killer, a psychopath, what he does is when he's dating, he doesn't go with the women who are suspicious. A woman who will go, "I don't think I like what you're saying. I don't think I like the way you think." He's not going to go with that person. He's going to go with a dupe. He's going to find a woman who falls for everything he says, a desperate woman. And he's like, "Hey, this is the one. I can bring her in. I can marry her, and she'll never be suspicious of me." That's how things work. So do I believe the wife could have not had a clue? Yes, I do. She might even have inklings, but she couldn't just fathom them. She's been trained. She's been probably controlled, manipulated for years, and she probably has the right personality to have that happen to her. And so she didn't either have a clue or couldn't quite go there. Maybe some people think she actually found something and finally said something to somebody, and that's how he got caught. Possibly true that she finally went, "Oh my God, it is him." I do not believe she was his partner. All right, let's see. Was Alan getting a kick out of having all those photos about and no one matching him to them? They got that photo of, like, he's sitting there and there's a photo behind him. And it's like, looks just like him. Yes, I'm sure he got that. Was entirely amused. Think about it. One of the problems when you're a serial killer and everybody around you is looking for somebody else and it's you. That's pretty cool, isn't it? It would excite me if I were him. Yeah, I'm sure that thrilled him to no end. Absolutely thought that's awesome. Yeah. We would definitely get a kick out of that. Let's see. Was his daughter also abused? I don't know. A lot of times serial killers do not abuse their own daughters, and so therefore the daughters love their daddy. Why would Alan and his wife take photos of their own daughter on the bridge? That's creepy. Maybe because it amused him. Important thing. Could Alan be linked to other crimes? This is a big one. Like the murders of these two girls. Remember the two girls? These two girls. This is the number one question I've been getting. Did he kill Elizabeth and Lyric over in Indiana? Because there were two girls who were riding bicycles and they got murdered. And we don't know exactly what the killer did to them, but they have not. Nobody's ever been caught for that case. In how many years? It's over a decade. Possibly. Now, here's the point. Just because somebody, let's say he is guilty of the murder of these two girls, he's not necessarily going to have always killed two girls. Just because this is a concept that is ridiculous. Motive operandi or victim choice, that they're always going to do the same thing and choose the same victims every time. No, they don't do that. Sometimes they pick quite a variety of victims, not even necessarily the same race or the same age. They go all over the place. They don't always pick two. Two is hard, kind of difficult. A lot of times the second one's just collateral damage anyway. Most of the time they're just picking one and, her friend's here. Well, I'll use her. Okay, I can kill her quick. So, no, most of the time they're going to pick one. So, could he have killed the two girls in Indiana? Possibly. But then again, some other creepy serial killer could have done it too. Because a lot of times serial crimes look so similar that you don't know which serial killer killed them. He could have killed one girl, two girls, a 13-year-old, a 33-year-old. Who knows? Who knows? And so what they have to do, the police have to go back into his entire background. They got to check every place he's ever been, working, living, visiting, vacationing, every place he's ever been to see if somebody dropped dead at the time he was there and see whether he could have done it. And then see if there's DNA and anything linking him to the crime. They're going to have to go through that. But I can't say he killed those other two girls in Indiana. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say this because this drives me nuts. In Indiana, they said the same thing that Doug Carter said. It drives me crazy. We're coming for you. We're going to find you, and we're going to come and get you. And they have never found the guy that killed the girls in Indiana. I wish the Bullhearts would not say this. This is not a good technique with serial killers. It only emboldens them, gives them power. What happens when you give a press conference, you ought to have somebody come out and very calmly state the facts, what they need from the community, and that's it. No, we know who you are. You're out there. We're going to get you. Now stop this nonsense. It only makes them laugh. Makes them laugh. If they said that to him 5 years ago, I'm sure he laughed. It does not freak them out. It does not make them do things that are stupid. It does not catch them. What it catches them is giving proper information to the community. One thing that is wrong in a lot of serial investigations is that serial homicide investigations is that they keep secret things that would help the community identify the guy. For example, let's say the person has been stabbed to death by a large knife. Tell the community the person has been stabbed to death by a large knife, because oddly enough, sometimes people will know that large knife. A wife will say, I had a large knife in my drawer, but suddenly it disappeared. Why? Why did it disappear? There was actually a case where a guy asked a friend to hide a knife for him, or keep a knife for him. And he did. He said, I don't know why this guy's asking me that. But the police never said a knife was used in the crime. And later on, when they caught the guy, he said, well, I would have told you that 10 years ago if you'd only told me that a knife was used in that crime. I never connected it. Don't assume that the public gets it. So you want to tell them every piece of information you can to identify the suspect. You don't need to say how many times a girl was stabbed. That's not going to help identify the suspect. So she was stabbed, like you can say she was stabbed 30 times in the back. You don't need to tell the public that. Because when you do get the guy in there and you say, what did you do? And he says, I stabbed her over 36 times in the back. That's something only he and the police would know. But the kind of weapon, hey, he knows the police know what the weapon is. There's no big secret. And one of the best examples of this is a long time ago in Maryland, the police detective, police chief that actually worked on the DC sniper case, had another case in which the serial killer strangled a woman on a bike path. And he left prints of his shoes. And the shoes were like so freaking big. It was like the Jolly Green Giant, right? And he was like, he went public with this, which almost never happens. Usually like, let's keep this secret because when we find the guy, we want to find the big shoes in his closet. But the problem is you never find the guy. And by the time you do find him, he's given up those shoes. Yeah, threw them in a trash bin. He gave them this Goodwill years ago. This police chief gave up that information right away. He actually gave pictures. He found pictures of the shoes, he put pictures of the prints. He said, this guy is like really big. He gave exact measurements. The neighbors saw the guy going out to his backyard, carrying the shoes away to hide them. And they caught the guy. He only got to kill one person. One woman was killed and they caught him. If they hadn't done that, if that police chief hadn't done that, thank God he did, he might have gone on to kill 10 other women. But that police chief gave out that information, and that is useful. So any information you can give the public that would help them identify the killer, you give that up. Don't give them up information that doesn't make any difference. We don't need to know that. But that just drives me nuts when they're like, oh, we're going to get you. No, that's not going to help. Give information to the public that is useful and stop trying to play games with the killer. That just annoys me. All right, let's see what else we got here. Could Alan be linked to other crimes? Absolutely. If he is a serial killer, he is going to have a history behind him. He was in his mid-40s when he would have committed this crime. It wasn't a first. It's not his first rodeo. You don't just go out and kill 2 girls like that and never have done something before. They need to look for all the rapes and serial homicides he could have committed. And wherever he's been. Some guy said, could he have been the Long Island serial killer? No. Check my video out on that. No, he didn't commit every crime in the United States. You know, there's a lot of serial killers out there. They're not all him. Okay, so how many serial killers are out there? A lot more than the FBI tells you. The FBI says 1 per state. 50 serial killers aren't large at any time. That's garbage. There's so many cities in the United States, and there's suburbs, and there's small towns. I guarantee you they're overlapping. There's way more than 50. I would say in every city, there's 1 or 2 or 3. So it's way worse than we think it is. But they don't kill as often as we think. So therefore, we don't realize that there are serial killers. And police departments never like to say there is a serial killer because of the pressure. So let's say you got a girl who's found raped and murdered in the bushes. They don't say it's a serial killer because after all, you have to have 3 linked together before you can say it's a serial killer. Garbage. In my opinion, you got a girl that's raped and murdered in the bushes. That's a serial killer. You should say suspected serial killer and look for everything connected to that crime. Anybody who could have done more than one, that one and some other ones, but they don't like to admit it. There was a case up in Canada where I forgot how many girls they found, but it's like 4 of them or 4 or 5 were finally found under this like tree, and they were murdered at different times. So the bodies were left there at different times. And even then, the police wouldn't say it was a serial killer. And one of the parents said, for God's sakes, what do you think? Is this a serial killer tree? Like the word went out, hey, here's a good place to leave bodies. And different serial killers all dump the bodies in the same tree? Come on now. You know, so they don't like to admit it because so much pressure from the media to catch that guy. So there's a lot more serial killers out there than we think. There are a lot more murders that are linked together than we think. And a lot of times there are serial killers overlapping. So because their crimes look so similar, you don't know which one did which one. But oftentimes you'll find that you catch one and then you link him to 3 other crimes. And you're like, I wouldn't have thought he committed those 3 crimes, but he did. All right. So let's see what else we got here. Somebody said, how do they become serial killers and when? Now, that's a long story. So you become serial killers because you're a psychopath from early days, and serial killing becomes a way for you to get power and control and to get rage out at the entire world. And you're somebody. You're no longer Clark Kent. You're now Superman, but nobody knows it. That's my short version of that. Now, one last thing I want to say before I go, and that's the most of the basic questions I had. If you have more, again, put them in the comments below. Here's the question I think is really important. What dangers are there for young teens? Is it serial killers? The answer to that is no. Serial killers is the lowest on the list of things that are dangerous for your teens. The biggest danger? Dating, getting a bad boyfriend. The internet, hooking up with people you shouldn't be hooking up with. Drugs are huge. Once your kids get involved in drugs, they lose all control about a lot of things. Alcohol, same thing. Going to isolated locations. Just, these girls went to an isolated location and they became easy victims. Worst problem, home life. So you have you got a little daughter, she's 4, you got another daughter who's 8, and your husband is, or boyfriend's gone missing. And, you hook up with this other cool guy and you like him really well. After 1 month, you move him into your house, even though he's got a history of drug use and criminal behavior, but you move him into your house because you want to have a boyfriend and sex. And then he rapes your daughters. The worst problems come from home. I did do a book on this. Let me find it. How to Save Your Daughter's Life. I have everything in here on how girls get into trouble because of not even realizing they're getting into trouble, and how they get into prostitution, how they get into drugs, how they get bad boyfriends who end up being stalker boyfriends and end up killing them. There's just so many ways. And, if you have a young girl, this is a good book, if I say so myself. And by the way, it's no longer published on Amazon as a book. It's only audio, and there's a woman, not me, and I can't stand her voice, so don't buy that. Just go to eBay or something, get a cheap copy. I will never make a penny off of it, but I think it's a good book for understanding what your daughter might get into by things. Your daughters are young and they're naive, and they don't know what they're getting into. They just don't. I have 2 other books I just want to mention. Killing for Sport. That book is available on Amazon, and that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek book on all the myths about serial killers that people just don't get. And if you're talking about investigations, I have this book. It's called The Profiler. That's a horrible title. My Life Hunting Serial Killers and Psychopaths. My publishers made me do that. But anyway, the original point of this book was to show how investigations sometimes go wrong, and how sometimes detectives miss things and don't understand certain things. And it's about criminal profiling. It's about analyzing crime scene evidence. So then you can sort of understand what you go through in the process of thinking. So that's another one. And that is available on Amazon. So that's it. Those are my comments on that I can come up with so far. Again, I'm not going to do another video now. I absolutely am not for talking about this case. Please do put any other questions I've never answered in the comments below. I will try to answer them as long as you don't repeat. Please look at the comments before you, so I don't have to say things like 700 times over, because it's pointless. And but I hope that this particular video clears up a lot of concepts that you have about the case, the investigators, Alan, serial killers, and all of that. Just try to reach a number of those, just to answer some of those questions, so that, because people, it's hard to get those kind of answers, and I try to just make it clear to people, logical stuff that people can understand. So anyway, that's it. Again, a totally unedited video. I just threw this together, and I just wanted you to have the opportunity to have some clarity on this case. I do believe that Alan is connected to this case. I do not believe he's any kind of a patsy. I do personally believe he acted alone, but I could be wrong on that. But I just rarely see a family guy involved with anybody else. And I find it strange that if there was DNA matching the Kleins or Logan, that they wouldn't have connected that earlier. Apparently, it seems like the only DNA, if there is any, is matched to him. So I will wait and see. I could, I may be surprised by something, but I personally think if he's guilty of the crime, he worked alone and he's a serial killer. And I think we're going to find that he's connected to something else if he's the guy that did it. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for being here. Again, please do like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that did answer your questions because I tried. I tried. See you later. Bye.